So I also see Prakriti ma'am here, ma'am. Good morning.
background.
Sorry. Your voice isn't getting echoed.
No. There is a hammering. Some carpentry work.
I think, sir, we can start because it's 10:05 and I think last time also we got participants. By the time the presentation started. So
yeah.
Okay. So very good morning to all on this last day of the year 2021. My name is Architect Tushar Mandal, and I am a teaching faculty at the Periyar School of Architecture, New Delhi. We are very glad to organize the third webinar in the Every Friday webinar series platform for young minds to express their ideas. Today's webinar will be on translating computation to architecture and will be presented by architect Rohan Arora. First and foremost, I would like to honor senior academicians and mentors whose support and guidance has been vital for this series. Architect Premendra Raj Mehta is the mentor of Periyar School of Architecture along with his partner. He is also the former president of the Council of Architecture. I would request sir if you could just please switch on your camera. And Rohan, if you could just mute yourself for it, please. Mehta sir?
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning to everyone. Welcome, Rohan, and very warm welcome to all the participants who have come today. Periyar School of Architecture is an open public school for studies and understanding in architecture, urban affairs, and issues related with the improvement of human habitat. We plan to have many non-formal aspects of education to be taken up for students, for working professionals, for urban managers, and so on in terms of short-term courses, summer studios for students who are studying in other schools, but during their vacation they can join in and learn along with some of the professionals who have excelled in a particular field of architecture. So summer courses would be about 4 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks, depending upon a teacher. These programs will be teacher-centric, and we would invite students from different schools to join in. And we would have short-term courses of maybe 100 hours spread over 3 to 4 months, focused on a particular subject, such as interior. You see, all our programs would be design focused. The idea is that how we can contribute in improving human habitat. So we would have these number of series running along with the PR's program, which may come in due course. So our present focus is creating speciality, inculcating habit of getting into depths, and exploring new ideas. This particular series, which we have every Friday, this is for young minds to share their new ideas, their ideas how we can deal with an existing problem or a problem which is likely to occur in future, given the present developmental schemes of Government of India, be it economic, be it social, be it cultural, that how it is likely to impact and what could be a possible new scenarios. Technology remains our focus around every aspect of socio-economic, cultural, and architectural development. And today's interactions with Rohan, I'm sure you would gain on that how to address the design issues through computations, which could give you an umpteen level of possibilities to explore your vision, to explore your talent. And I wish that all of you attempt something like this in almost all aspects of architecture and share it with each other, because you are the future of the nation. So if you would continue to explore, and the role which we have taken at Periyar is to allow this exploration, to encourage you all to think exactly in the direction you want to think, and not bind you with the conventional syllabus of universities or schools. I'm very pleased that Tushar is making such a great effort to bring all of you together at this forum. He's searching for new talent. And I appeal to all of you that if you know someone, if you have an idea, if you know that someone has an idea, please connect him to Tushar. And this would be the forum where they could share their ideas. We would do whatever follow-up action is required with the concerned authorities or concerned institutions as our contribution towards achieving your goal, towards fulfilling your dream, towards working around your thought process. So that's the forum. It's your forum. Explore it, exploit it, generate new ideas, share new ideas, and keep going. Thank you. Thank you, Tushar. You can carry it forward, please. Yeah, go ahead, Tushar.
So now I would like to introduce our speaker for today's webinar, Architect Rohan Arora. I think there's a echo. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So Architect Rohan completed his DArch from the Sushant School of Architecture, and more recently he completed his MArch from the Bartlett School of Architecture, University College London. He is currently running his own practice and has previously worked on projects such as the South Sea School in Dubai. He has a deep interest in computation and biophilia in design. Today, he will be talking about achieving tangible from intangible, translating computation to reality in architectural design. So I would like to request Rohan to now begin. I would also like to request all participants to keep themselves on mute. There will be a question answer session at the end of the presentation, when you will be allowed to unmute yourself and ask questions. Rohan, you can start now. Thank you.
Okay.
Tushar, there is echo.
Sir, I'll see what. Is there an echo still?
No,
Rohan, you can start.
Maybe someone has logged in by through two devices. Just check, please. Request.
Yeah.
Yeah. If someone has logged in by two devices, please shut off one.
Is there still an echo, or is it a lag?
I'm not getting any echo.
Okay, so then Rohan, you can begin.
Okay. So can you see the Shah?
Yes, the screen is open.
Okay. So good morning, everyone, and thanks for the introduction. Before starting the presentation, I would like to thank Mr. Pramendra Raj Mehta and Tushar for this opportunity to share my knowledge about computation design with all of you present here. So today I'll be speaking about how to translate design into reality, and in this presentation will be helpful for fresher architects and students who are interested in computation design. I'll give you an insight of current computational design trends which you might find to be much different than the computational design you are all used to seeing. We will also touch upon the fabrication techniques which help us to execute the highly complex design we make through computation. So, what do we do as an architect? When I finished my bachelor's, I believed that architects are supposed to make buildings. But when I started working, I realized that we are a part of a large ecosystem and our job is only to design a building, make drawings, and then we rely on others to execute our vision. We don't know how to lay bricks or pour concrete, but it's our responsibility to execute the project and give a final output. Now to execute our projects, we make drawings, and then we give those drawings for construction. And then just keep an eye on the project so that our vision comes to life. We have been making drawings for centuries. Romans made drawings to execute Pantheon, Mughal architects made drawings to execute Taj Mahal, and even after so many centuries, we still issue similar kind of drawings to make our buildings. Our way of construction, materials, designs, and almost everything has changed completely. But one thing that sort of remains constant is that we sort of still make drawings to make our buildings. Now, very important question is there a limitation to what we can draw? I won't deny that it must have been a very tedious task to make drawings of which which is with all its intricate details. But I'm pretty sure Roman builders would have gone crazy if they had to draw one of Gary's buildings, especially through the wonderful sketches he makes. But now we have better technology than Romans, and Gary's buildings are present all over the world in this signature style. So what has changed? How did Gary's office execute these crazy looking projects which are so hard to execute? So here's a story about how Gary became a star architect. So when Gary was not a star architect he is now, he still used to make wonderful buildings, but he had yet to attain his signature style. This is when Gary came up with an idea to design the sculpture building for Olympics in Barcelona. And for some reason, which I have no clue about, he wanted it to look like a fish. Now, buildings like these look very common and easy to make these days, but in 1992, when Gary was clueless about how he will execute this task, that's when he realized that this work is beyond the conventional architectural tool that they were using at that time. Now, to tackle this problem, Gary had to start using a software called CATIA, which was then used to design fighter airplanes. This was sort of an introduction to three-dimensional computer-aided design to architecture. Gary saw the potential of software and developed his own vision of it for architectural use, and then he went on to create many wacky buildings. Now, some of you might be thinking, how did CATIA actually help Gary so much? And if it's such a useful software, why were you not taught about it in college? It's probably because it's very expensive and hard to use, and we kind of use lighter version of it, which are basically Rhinoceros, Maya, and other nerve-based software. Nerves by definition are non-uniform rational baselines, or in simple language, they are basically curves which have a mathematical logic attached to it. Nerves can accurately represent both standard geometric objects like lines, circle, ellipses, spheres, tori, and freeform geometry like car bodies and human bodies. Now, these nerve-based software over the years have helped us to create many beautiful looking buildings, from Gary's Guggenheim Bilbao to Zahadi's famous Hyder Ali Center. And there are many recent examples like library which is designed by MAD, as you can see in the slides here. Now, even though these softwares have made our life so much easier and have opened new realms of design which might seem much more creative, but we can't ignore the fact that these designs still need to be made through drawings. And all the designs, even though we call them computational, have a human vision behind them, which crafts them and therefore also limits them in a way. This pavilion, for example, was designed by Zaha Hadid architects in their signature style and is undoubtedly amazing. But my problem with it is that it still uses old conventional, which are quite common these days. Now, the big question is, can computers be used to design beyond our imagination? Can there be a different approach to computational design? Actually, there are many different ways. They have existed for quite a while now, and they have sort of challenged this conventional approach of creating smooth looking buildings, which are then constructed by manual labor. Here, for example, is Michael Hansmeyer's Grotto 2. This is highly ornamental structure, is designed entirely by algorithm, comprises 1.35 billion surfaces, and it materialized from 7 tons of printed sandstone. Design visualization like these are far beyond human imagination, and it may take us hundreds of years to make such highly detailed building like Gaudi's Sagrada Familia. Some of you might be thinking, why would we ever create buildings like these? But because they might seem ugly to some of you, but these buildings don't have a human logic behind them. They are basically designed in computation because only computers are able to comprehend such intricate details, and it's far beyond human imagination. Now, to explain the difference between what current computers can do and what we were trying to achieve with nerve-based surfaces, is that a nerve-based surface is quite simple. Humans can morph it in their own way, so that it's simpler for them to execute and also to understand in digital software. However, on the other hand, the composition on the right is quite complex for simple human logic. But it is quite simple for computational purpose with the right logic applied to it. Computers have the power to process millions of tiny data packages within few seconds, and that's what make it completely different from humans. So what I'm basically trying to say is that computers don't need to be used to design the way humans do. Now again, with computation, we don't need to limit our imagination, as there is no need to simplify things. Here, for example, is a project done at Princeton, which used robot to create a light vault, which shows us how we can't do even complex construction directly through computation without much human involvement. And there is no need to make plans, elevation, section, etc. Now, this will disappoint your AD teacher in school, but it's the truth and it's the future. Now, another example of how we can make complex design with robots, and there doesn't need to be simplification to help humans understand the drawing. Robots can directly take up the design from digital softwares and start fabricating it for us. without us telling it through annotations how to lay every single bricks. Now there can be a lot of examples for how we can use computers to execute our tasks. Here we have images of execution done by drones, multiple axis robotic arm, which can make fabrication process much faster for us. Use of these tools will vary from project to project and on the basis of design requirement. Now, this is another project which shows us how we can achieve complex aesthetics using computation and robotic fabrication. Again, the aesthetic of this project is much different from the conventional pavilion that we are still usually see, and this is basically because of design development which with the computational techniques that are beyond our usual capabilities. For this project, researchers at University of Stuttgart performed a robot to wind 60 kilometers of carbon and glass fiber filaments into this pavilion inspired by a lobster's exoskeleton. This project is unique also because of the biomimetic principles involved. The idea of replicating nature, even though it's not at all new, but this degree of complexity can only be achieved through deep level of computation and cannot be executed without with our conventional construction method. And here is another pavilion by University of Stuttgart, which is also based on biomimetic. This one is inspired by a skeleton of sea urchin. As part of the project, a robotic manufacturing platform was developed for automatic assembly and milling of the pavilion's 376 bespoke hollow wood segments, a process that ensures that all the segments fit together like a three-dimensional puzzle. The wooden roof spans over 30 meters, creating large space for events and concerts. Now, the great thing about the project is that the project was executed within 10 working days with the help of 2 craftsmen, robots, 2 million lines of custom codes. The robots were tasked to not only mill the wooden parts, but also to assemble the entire structure, which shows the advanced level of control we have achieved in terms of robotics.
Okay, so thank you, Rohan, for a very contemporary subject. And I think the presentation was very concise but informative. So participants can now ask questions, and I especially encourage any students present here to ask their questions and get their doubts clarified from the speaker. I think if one of you wants to begin with a discussion, or else I can probably pose a question that I got that came to me like while watching the presentation. So Rohan, do you think that the aesthetics that you showed towards the end of the presentation or the assemblages that you showed, they can be feasible for large-scale constructions or large-scale architecture?
I mean, right now the examples I showed you were basically pavilion level structures, but it's like we already have made attempts to do highly ornamented architecture with Sagrada Familia, and there have been projects in the past. We tend to always like move towards this ornamentational approach, and computation will just and robotic fabrication will just make our life so much easier. Like we can basically craft individual parts, and we won't have to think about how we will assemble them, or we don't have to annotate each and every detail, and basically these small parts will be sort of like manufactured as well as assembled by the robots, as we saw in the second project. Basically all the parts, which were, even though the structure was not that complex, but there were like 376 bespoke parts in it, and with the help of like coding we could arrange all those parts in their specific location without making even a single drawing or anything like. So I think even larger projects can be divided into smaller fragments, and we can basically just use this coding language to use make these bespoke parts and then create something large.
Okay. I could see Umair wanting to ask a question. So, go ahead, Umair.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning from India, sir. Very nice to talk to you again. And Rohan, it was an interesting presentation.
Thank you.
But I want to point out, I think Architect India will back me up on this, that India is an entire country is highly dependent on hand-held labor. And the construction industry is one of the largest employment providers in the country, right? So
Yeah.
there are a lot of architects who are trying to bring in robotics and computation to design regular architecture. As Tushar mentioned, that this type of robotic architecture is limited to large scale and instrumental architecture, like you said, but not does not regularly apply to regular architecture like residences or complexes, etc. So how do you if robotics come into play, then it takes along a huge population from employment. That I think is a negative point for a country like us. Please comment.
I mean, even I have thought about it. Like in a country like India, and with so many people, like basically I was just discussing this with somebody, and when we go on to lay a brick in India versus when we go on to lay a brick in UK, like it becomes a very simple process in India where you can like hire people to just do a repetitive task and not have robot. But like the thing is, like with robots, you can sort of like go towards craft revival, where it doesn't have to be like specifically applied to like used to make houses, but it can still be used to make specific craft. Because like even though you can ask a human to drill and chisel intricate details like Taj Mahal, but it's just not feasible anymore. There's not as much skills, and we don't have like people who can work toil that much for us now. But basically we have this whole past where we used to use intricate details at some point, and now with robots and everything, even we can see a merger of like humans, where humans can be used to assemble it, and robots can just be used to create bespoke parts. Because that would be an interesting combination where robots can actually help us do better architecture, and it will be basically sort of like a big revival for us in terms of getting our intricate ornamentation back. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. But there's a lot of discussion to it which cannot be completed in a objective question answer session. So I'll definitely get in touch with you and we'll have a discussion.
Yeah, sure.
So, is there anybody else who wants to join in on the discussion or ask a question? We also have the Telegram discussion group. If anybody wants to pose a question, they can post it there as well.
Yeah, Tushar, can I say something?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Rohan, very interesting presentation you made. I think you made very strong points. One is the resolution of geometry, which is our imagination of forms. And second is the revival of craft in architecture. I think very interesting points. So I want to understand now if these are the two parts of the architecture, the form itself and the craft which goes along with architecture. What would you think could be the modification we may require in educational programs to inculcate this habit of exploring in geometry through computation, and also revival of craft through robotic or any other means you think you have in mind.
So basically about revival of craft, like through computation, I mean, that's very much possible. Like now we have tools and everything which can basically not only analyze the old art forms and basically the sculptures we had and basically the intricate details we can basically scan them and not even replicate them, but we can also use 3D softwares to sculpt them and create new art forms. Like basically, not only like I've given a lot of thought to it, and basically even if we don't use robots, there have been tools like augmented reality, which can basically help you ease the human effort in terms of creating like crafts. Like for example, like if you have to chisel a stone, and my task as an architect is to basically make drawings for somebody to chisel that stone in beautiful intricate details. And even then it's very hard to replicate a drawing versus like a drawing is basically very easy to print, but to do that same thing on stone is like task like for like it takes months of efforts or probably years of effort to make it. But how we can help this sort of processes through technology is like basically you can use augmented reality where you now have like those uh, VR glasses which can basically used for craftsmen to basically visualize those details on a plaque of stone and then basically use to carve it. And then again we can, if we don't need to be limited by size of it, like basically you can like in one VR glass you can fit entire design and project it on a stone and it can be carved. And then we don't need to worry about also about how to place it because we have advanced machinery now and robotics, and we can basically craft column like we used to do in like our ancient temples and everything, where we can just make beautiful big boulders and craft them and then place them anywhere, or we can like sort of go into approach of stone cut architecture or anything. It will be a very uh, tedious task and a difficult technology to evolve in terms of like it will be like very hard to chisel still, but then it won't be as difficult as it is right now, and even as difficult as it used to be back then. That's
We also have amongst us Prakriti, assistant professor at BSSA NIMS University. Would you like to say something, Prakriti?
Yeah. Thanks for giving an interesting presentation, Rohan. I think it's interesting to see newer ways in using technology and softwares in some ways to visually program our thought process. So it's interesting the way you've put it up, that whatever's there on the mind as we visually see or visually imagine, so to say, we can program it into an algorithm and then compute it to see the final product and be visually available for everybody to see. So that's an interesting point that you've put across through your presentation. And also the idea of, how historically there have been approaches to converting imagination into reality. And also, while right now you were answering to one of the questions, you spoke about how AR, VR could be used in terms of putting across, again, the same bit of imagination to reality or imagination to physical form in a lot of ways. So that's a great bit that I think Rohan's touched upon, and I would like to appreciate the fact that the presentation was extremely, I think the visuals were extremely interesting and engaging, even at the beginning while you were intending to put across the point of the importance of it, and also the illustrations that you had put across were quite engaging, so to speak. Yeah. Thank you, Rohan.
Thanks. Thanks for the compliments.
Thank you, ma'am. So I think there is another question that I would like to ask, and this would probably be addressed at all any student who amongst us. Rohan, so my question to you would be that if in case a student wants to start or start exploring computation or start exploring design and architecture through computation, so at his level, what are the skills and softwares that are available to him that he can explore?
I mean, today basically everything is basically we can just start doing anything and we will find through internet or through Google and everything. Basically, you need to first see like in presentation basically the whole point of the presentation was like even though like as a student I was inspired by Zaha's work and the work is amazing. We can't deny that. Like it's as inspiring, and we have never seen buildings like those in India. But when I started doing my masters, I came across this whole different level of computation, which is basically not has not reached the level of architecture. So the first part of like doing approaching computation would be to deciding what you want to do. Like we might not be able to make buildings like Zaha in India because they're very uh, difficult to make and everything. But the second way of computation, for me, it feels sort of ornamental, and I feel that we could see that something like that in India. So basically, the first step would be to like decide of what way direction do you want to go into, and then related to each uh, direction that you choose, there are like for Zaha kind of approach, you need to learn basically Maya and Rhino, and with that you can use Grasshopper. And there are like a lot of books like Algorithm and Aided Design for that, which can teach you like the basics of it. And then you can keep evolving your skills basically by seeing the small examples on those books. And that's how I did it first because like I was fascinated by the kind of work these star architects were doing. But then sort of to approach the second kind of way, you need to go into like the more harder softwares like which are like more related towards computation, and you can't be limited towards to buy any of the software. Like if it's not an architecture software and you still have to use it to make some intricate pattern, you can go for it. Like today for like second part of the computational design I talked about, we were using softwares like Houdini and everything, which are basically they were not designed for architecture purposes. But just like Gary, we can't be limited by the softwares. We have to use whatever we have in our hand, and we can use whatever software we want for uh, whatever part of whatever the design requirement is, and then we can start learning that software.
Okay,
Prashant,
that's
may I ask you?
yes, Humay, please go ahead.
Rohan, I wanted to know, is there a threshold software to learn computation? Because, of course, there are a lot
Sorry,
of software.
I'll just interrupt for 1 second. Rohan, if you could just mute yourself while the person is asking a question, the echo would stop. Yeah, thank you. Umair, go ahead.
Sorry. Rohan, I wanted to know if there is a threshold software, like a software which I or any other student could, probably think of starting at. Because there are a lot of softwares in the market, and there are, of course, very complicated and difficult to understand at the beginning. But where would you start when you actually want to get into computation?
Uh, from personal experience, the starting point would be can be anything basically. Like when I personally started using computation, I knew only about Grasshopper. So basically, I was using Grasshopper for like if I used to participate in a competition, I used to take it up as a challenge to design that thing in computation. And when you sort of start using computation, you only apply things which you know. So if, for example, you start using Grasshopper today and you learn sort of basics of it, then you will be sort of restricted by the basics of it. And Grasshopper, even though it's a wonderful software, it's in itself is limited, and you need to be a master of it to be able to create like lot of different designs and everything. So I think I wouldn't recommend like going straight to a software and be like, I want to learn Grasshopper or anything. I would like before doing that, we should learn about computation, and through like various webinars or anything, like we can see what kind of computational work, and then we can basically be like, I want to design something like this, and how do I do it? So basically, you can go see like some design that you really like, or you can participate in a competition and first design in a way, and then use computational tools to basically execute that thing. Like you don't always have to be like start from computation, but like in the end, you need to end up at computation so that your designs can become better. So and then we probably to answer your question, I think I personally started with Grasshopper, but I wouldn't recommend to be like limited by any particular software. Like if you feel that like you can design a simple curve in Rhino, then I wouldn't recommend going into Grasshopper for that. But if you feel that you need Grasshopper, then go into Grasshopper. But then I wouldn't recommend to be limited by Grasshopper also. If you feel that you need to design intricate meshes and everything, then there are softwares like Houdini, which you don't need to learn as much as Grasshopper to be able to learn to better tasks than Grasshopper, because they are specifically designed for those kind of tasks.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I
that
think that
answers
answers
Umay's
Umay's
question.
question.
So
So
if
if
there's
there's
anybody else
anybody
who
else
wants
who
to
wants
ask
to
a
ask a
question,
question,
then
then
please
please
go ahead.
go ahead.
Let me also
Let
check
me
if
also check
the
if the
a question
a
has
question
been
has been
posted in
posted
the
in the
group.
group.
So we can conclude, Tushar.
Okay, so in that case, I would like to thank Architect Rohan for the presentation, and I would also like to thank all academicians and present here for the support. Before closing, I would like to inform everyone about the Every Friday webinar series being organized by the Periyar School of Architecture. Today's webinar was also a part of the same series. It is a platform for young professionals to express their ideas, and it is aimed at students and young architects. Further, we will also be running short-term courses and summer schools, as Architect Mehta sir mentioned earlier. All the information for the future webinars in schools will be posted in our Telegram channel. So I request the participants to keep themselves updated with it. With this, I would like to end today's webinar. I thank everyone present. Have a good day and a happy and safe 2022. Thank you.
Thank you.
Best
Best
wishes for
wishes
New
for
Year.
New Year.